2, 1. Welcome to...
Sorry, go again.
Welcome to the FALA Upcast, a bi-monthly podcast where we watch movies and talk about them. I'm Elizabeth, I'm your host, and today's guest is Sophie.
Hello.
So, in today's episode, we are reviewing Old, a horror movie released earlier this year. It's directed by M. Night Shyamalan, and it was not well received by critics, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to dive into a brief summary of the plot. In this film, a family goes on vacation to an exotic island. The mother is suffering from cancer, and as you find out towards the end of the movie, most of the resort guests also suffer from various illnesses. Resort employees take this family, along with a few other guests, to a secluded beach for a day of relaxation. But this beach has supernatural properties that causes them to age rapidly, experiencing their entire lifespan in a single day. So this film relies really heavily on body horror because you're watching these people with chronic illnesses that are now experiencing them at a rapid rate. They're aging very fast, so all the older characters die from old age. The children are the only ones that make it off of the island. And the film comes to a grand finale when the viewer discovers that pharmaceutical companies use this beach to test their medications. All the resort guests with illnesses were given drinks with experimental medicines in them. So then, by sacrificing the guests to this beach, the researchers can conduct trials at a much faster rate because they can watch the illness progress and see how their medicine works. So if this plot synopsis sounded insane to you, you are not the only one. Old currently has a 50% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I saw one critic regard it as, overall, just bad. So,
Yeah.
I also saw so many critiques saying that the science of the beach makes zero sense. That was the biggest complaint that I saw from reviews. What did you think about the logistics of the beach, the whole science of it, I guess?
Okay, for reference, I watched this last night until 12 a.m. But I thought there were multiple things throughout the film that I was like, this does not make sense. I agree. I kind of agree with the critics in the fact that a lot of the logistics of the beach itself, they did not work.
Right. Yeah, the fact that they're aging really fast, they're getting all wrinkly and stuff, but their hair stays the same length.
Yeah. And they kind of mentioned it. They were like, oh, well, our hair and nail cells are dead or something like that. But I don't know. I'm not a science person, so I didn't really get it.
I didn't.
You know what I also one thing that I thought about throughout the film was they aren't drinking water. Only the kids ate food.
Right.
If you were in a situation where you were aging rapidly, I don't think the body would be able to even process, because can't you only go 2 weeks without food and a couple days without water?
That's so true. Also, the fact that they brought food, and we saw that this supernatural beach, it affected their dog. Their dog died really fast. So we know that it affects life forms other than humans. So then wouldn't all the bacteria on their food be also living at a rapid rate? Wouldn't
I mean,
wouldn't that be a problem?
unless I don't know.
I'm not going to think about it.
The resort did provide the food, so maybe they put something in it to make it not, but that wasn't explained. But
I thought this movie was really funny, though. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I watched Old in theaters, so I saw a midnight showing.
I saw a midnight showing.
I saw a midnight showing
Why?
Of Old in theaters. There were only about 15 people in the entire theater because it wasn't exactly hyped up.
That's fair.
Confusion was palpable in the air. You could smell it. There were certain scenes where something bizarre would happen, and there would just be choruses of what the F word.
Yeah.
You could just. Yeah, there were audible reactions to a lot of what happened, especially the pregnancy thing.
Oh my god, I wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, let's delve into that.
Can we please? That's what I wanted to talk about
After the pregnancy
earlier.
scene, that's when people started to leave the theater.
They left?
People left. Okay,
Oh my
so there were
God.
15 people at the start, and by the end of the movie, when credits were rolling, there were only 4 people in the
my
theater,
God.
including myself and the 2 people I dragged with me. So there was only one lady in the theater.
That's crazy.
Wow. everyone just left.
Okay, but here, like, what rubbed me the wrong way about that whole thing
the pregnancy.
was okay. In the movie, if you have not seen it, there's like 2 6-year-olds and an 11-year-old or something.
Right.
And the kids are aging like everybody else. And so these 2 6-year-olds grow up in the span of like 2 hours, and they're like teenagers or something, or young adults. And the 6-year-old girl, she is technically still 6 years old. Her body just isn't 6 years old. Gets pregnant and has a baby, and then the baby dies.
Like, immediately.
But
because, like,
technically, this is a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
That's what made me feel really weird about it.
They were 6-year-olds, like, and then 20 minutes later, like, they go into a tent together, and you're like, oh god, they're not gonna go there, are they?
They
They can't possibly go there. And then she's pregnant, and it's horrifying.
It's so
and
weird.
she's like, what's going on? She doesn't know what pregnancy is. She's 6 years old.
I was like, how did these 6-year-olds decide that this is what they were going to do?
The parents didn't understand how they even knew, like, how to conceive of a child.
Yeah.
And then, like, the fact that the baby, like, it was so unnecessary, because the baby didn't even live for 30 seconds. Because it was, like, I don't know, I guess it was, like, growing
it was like
so fast,
it
wasn't
died
fed.
of lack of attention.
Right.
But if the baby dies from lack of attention, then I feel like everybody else on the island should have died from lack of attention.
I think it's because, like, babies, the island's making them grow really fast. So that's why the kids had to eat a lot, because their bodies were growing. So the baby's body would also be growing. And kids grow more rapidly than adults, right? So I think that's why the baby died. But also, like, if you're going to have her get pregnant and then have the baby die, like, why have her get pregnant at all?
Yeah.
Like,
it just was a weird addition, and it made me feel really uncomfortable when
really
watching
gross.
it. I was like, this is so weird. This is not where I thought the movie was going to go.
Like, talking, like, as 6-year-olds, and they just, like, conceived a child.
Yeah.
It was, like, really weird.
Like, in my mind, I was like, these are
uncomfortable.
6-year-old children.
Yeah. Was that, like, your least favorite part of the movie?
Oh, absolutely. I'm still thinking about how uncomfortable that whole thing made me. Okay. Definitely my least favorite scene.
Your least favorite?
Uh-huh.
Can we talk about our favorite parts of the movie? Because I have a couple.
Okay, you go first.
I'm going to start off, number 1, nosebleed guy. I don't know, like...
Okay, wait.
He was a rapper.
He was really pretty.
He was.
He had very nice eyes.
But his, like, chronic illness was he had, like, a blood clotting issue. That's why his nose kept bleeding.
Oh.
But the fact that, like, he, like, didn't age at all, and then he just, like, died, and he, like, just, like, stood there and, like, looked off into the distance ominously. Like, he knew what was going on, but he just didn't say. I thought it was so funny. And then he got stabbed.
Yeah, he did.
So, I don't know.
He was a very racist character in this film.
Yeah, I, like, honestly don't even remember, like, all the little details. So much happened. So much happened in that movie. It has a runtime of 108 minutes, but so much happened in 108 minutes.
It was only 108 minutes?
Yeah, it was only 108 minutes, but it felt
I thought
so
it was, like,
much longer.
What? I thought it was, like, 2 hours. Or, like, an hour and 45.
Maybe I should fact check this.
Anyway. Oh, wait. Okay, wait. Pause real quick. I just thought of something. Going back to the the logistics of the beach and just the whole thing, there was a lot of inconsistency I felt in the, like, aging process of all of the adults, because the main family that's there, they seem older than, like, the blonde lady that was there, right? She seems pretty young. I mean, we never know how old she is, but she seems to age a lot faster than the other two, than the, like, other adults there. I don't know. I felt like there was some weird, like, aging inconsistencies.
We can't talk about the blonde lady without talking about the calcium deficiency.
Oh my god,
so if
she's
you
so
haven't
funny.
watched the movie, there is a blonde girl, and earlier in the movie, she mentioned that she, like, needs to eat particular foods while she's on this resort because she has a calcium deficiency. So, later in the movie, this is, like, the biggest example of body horror. Like, my brother had to step out of the theater. He couldn't do it. It seared into my brain, but it was hilarious. So she was really upset about her aging. She didn't want anyone to look at her. She was very, like, concerned about her appearance and suddenly being very old. But she had a calcium deficiency, and there were these, like, caves.
Yeah.
And, like, one of the kids was hiding in the cave, and she was like, they had a match. and she didn't want them to see her face, so she was trying to like run after them and put out the match.
No, she was like throwing rocks at them.
She was like going crazy.
Yeah.
And she like, her bones would break really easily because she had a calcium deficiency. But then because her body's aging rapidly, they would heal. So she's like, she's trying to like squeeze it through this tunnel, and like her bones keep breaking and then re-healing and contorting, and she just becomes like so mangled, like all of her limbs like they wrap around her body, and it's broken all sorts of different sections, and her arms and legs are just like sticking out, and she's like, turn off the light, don't look at me, and like, she just dies. Like I was like so confused what was happening because I forgot that she had a calcium deficiency. It was only mentioned like in the first 5 minutes of the movie one time, and then one of the kids is like, she has a calcium deficiency.
Did they say that? Oh, I didn't even realize when it happened. I think I was just in shock of the whole scene.
It was really bizarre. It came out of nowhere. She just like, and then she just died.
Yeah.
So I think like, you know what? That was my favorite part. I thought it was really funny. I
was like,
the actress really like got into it. Like she was like screaming and like thrashing around. I don't know.
Okay, wait. I don't know if you have a question about this, but like out of the characters, who is your favorite like actor? Like, I have an answer to this. I don't know if you do.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I don't remember the little girl's name, but the main little girl. So there's different actors throughout the ages that they are. So there's like the first set when they're little, and then like the second mid set, and then the third old set of actors or whatever. But the second actor for the main little girl, she was really good.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. They like used, so they'd switch out the actors, but you'd have like one actor in it for like 40 minutes or something, and then other people are having their actors switched out. There was just no like consistent progression of aging. Yeah. I think they needed, if they wanted to commit to that, to changing out actors, they needed to do that more, because that actress you're talking about, she was in the movie for like
the majority of it,
like a majority of it, and she looked like a teenager, and she was supposed to be like 30 something. Yeah, I don't know.
But also like with the actors and changing them out with the ages,
right?
I notice a lot of inconsistencies from the young version of the character to the next like older version of the character. I like with the girl that we're talking about, from the middle character or the middle-aged one to the old one, like they didn't even talk the same. I noticed it was weird. I thought like their accent was off, and I feel like there could have been more.
That's the other thing too. And then like towards the end of it, when children are like grown up, they're talking about how they like feel old, and that doesn't make sense to me, because I understand like their cortexes would have like evolved, it would have been more developed, like their brains would be more developed, but they would have no like life experiences. Yeah. They wouldn't actually,
except for the boy like, who got the 6-year-old
they would have
pregnant.
the same vocabulary as 6-year-olds would.
Yeah, that's one thing I thought of too.
Yeah, that's another inconsistency. Let's talk about the movie's ending for a second. Okay. Because I just like thought they were all gonna die on the island. Like, cause like basically everyone was dying really, really fast. But Old ends with the family's 2 children escaping. So the 6-year-old and the 11-year-old. The pregnant child died. I forgot how she even died.
She tried to climb the rocks and she fell.
Okay. Yeah, there was something about the rocks. I didn't understand that. Yeah. So they escaped by swimming through like a coral reef.
Yeah.
I didn't fully understand what the deal with that was. Yeah. Like at that point in the movie, it felt like a fever dream. I was like, what's happening? Yeah. Like they were like the coral. If we get through the coral, I'm like, where are you getting?
I know. Was the coral ever in any of the other shots of the ocean?
No.
Like,
okay.
It was weird.
It was so weird. So the characters like escape this island, the 2 kids, and they're like 50 or something. And they like show up at the resort, and they're like, you left us to die. And it's like this big like confrontation, and they like call the cops or something, and they're like, I don't know, they like fly home in a helicopter, and they're like, we're gonna shut this whole thing down. And I'm like, how are you not like traumatized? Like, so much happened. Yeah. And they're just like ready to like bust in there and like girl boss all over
the resort. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you feel about the ending of the movie?
No, I completely agree, like, with what you just said and how it was like, how are you not traumatized? You just watched, like, 7 people die around you.
I know. And a lot of them were, like, gory deaths. And there was a scene where the mother, you know, I mentioned she had cancer, like, her tumor that was benign started growing, and they had to cut it out of her while it was still growing. And, like, the other thing, too, is that it wasn't consistent. Like, if you, like, cut someone, they would heal because their body's aging really fast, I guess. There was just so much body horror and gore. Like, that was the only thing that made this movie into a horror movie, I think. Like, I don't think the premise itself is scary. I don't know. What are your, like, final thoughts, just to wrap up this episode?
No thoughts. No. I was surprised that I stayed awake for the whole thing. Not because it was necessarily a bad movie, but I'm really bad at, like, watching movies and staying awake. So I'm surprised at myself for that. But this, I didn't know what to expect going into the film. And also, I did not know what was going on in the island. Like, I didn't realize that they were aging really fast until, like, I think I checked. It was, like, 30 or 40 minutes into the movie. I was like, oh, because she was like, there's something wrong with my kids. Like, can you please come look at my kids? We need to get them to the hospital. I was like, what is wrong with these kids? And apparently they were aging. And I didn't get that till, like, 40 minutes into the film. But, yeah, I don't know. I thought it was funny.
I agree. I thought it was very funny.
I don't think I'd watch it again.
I would not either.
But I think it was an experience. And I would recommend it, but not, like,
it's not gonna, like, change your life.
It's not gonna change your life, and you don't need to go into it being like, oh, this is gonna be, like, a really scary horror movie, and it's gonna be really good. Like, you have to go into it expecting it to be bad, I think.
I don't think the trailers disappoint. Like, the entire premise of it. Like, the whole premise of the show is ridiculous, and I think it really lives up to that.
I was so confused when I saw the what's it called? The, like, artwork of the movie. The movie poster. I was so confused when I saw that, and I was like, a beach and old? How do those things tie together? I had no idea what to expect going into this.
So much happened.
Like, I think we could sit here for hours and talk about every single thing that happened, but we would literally be here for hours.
Yeah.
Go watch it.
Or don't.
Also, you can't rent it anywhere. You have to buy it.
Yeah. You have to buy it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much for being our guest. You did wonderfully.
Thank you.
Make sure to tune in for our next episode. It will be close to Halloween, so we will be covering something Halloween-y. Thank you so much for watching.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.